do have an update on data discovery. Scott looked at the install guide for 2023-1, and basic data discovery is available with base product. Advanced data discovery requires a license, and I've got somebody searching in the 2024.2 installation guide, seeing if we can find some information about the most recent version. So the basic data discovery, when we were going over that and tips and tricks, may be available still at no charge with the base product. And I'll let you know, or we'll put it in the minutes if we can find some information on the most recent version.
So regarding that slide, they don't work. It's not available yet.
So no
Once
BAQ.
deployed, it should work, but
Yep. Right click with BAQ results does not work. You can go in and make sure that it's set to the like field, so I know it's part.partnum, but you still can't right click and get to a context on it. I believe Susan had already posted this up to Epicor and shared her case number if anybody else wants to join that bandwagon and get an ideas number.
For what it's worth, the BAQ designer in the web is still in preview mode, so it's not a finished product.
Come on, man, 12 months, 12 months.
2024.2.
Good times, good times. Okay, our next one is from Susan, right after she posted the answer regarding the other one. Is it possible to set the open in new tab as the default when opening windows from the menu? From the menu, yes. Right, clicking on a order number and expecting it to go to a new tab doesn't work that way. The menu inside Epicor to tell it to go ahead and open another. Let me see if I can pull this up here. So when I'm in Epicor, Susan, I can turn around and say, hey, give me a menu. From the menu, you're clicking an icon that can open another application. From inside an application accessing the data, I would think you're accessing data on that form. Would that be right, Hannah?
Yeah, that sounds right.
From the home page, if you click an icon, it won't do it. If you go over to the menu and click a menu entry with control down, that will open a new tab.
The icons work for me.
Really? Dang it, I can't get them to work either.
I'm on 2024.2. I don't know if that matters or not.
That could matter, yeah.
No, this is browser based.
It could still be something.
Because I was reading, I was looking for the setting in Chrome, and everything I could find referenced older versions of Chrome to change the default open method. Now, on that same topic that I was talking about with the cool shortcuts, Susan, if you're out there, I can turn around and create a tab group and then add this tab to that group. Then when I come in, I can say open the whole group, and all the tabs in the group are opened, and they all go to where I left off in Epicor. Eric G has a question here. How are the layers applied based on the order column? Is order 1 applied first, and if something was changed in both layers, does order 2 override what was done in order 1 layer?
Yes.
I have not tried to do multiple, so I'm going, Hannah, back to you in the studio.
That's exactly what it is. It would be 0, 1, 2, 3, so on and so forth. And then the child layer will override anything above it in the parent layer if it's specific to that layer.
So if you've got something that's hidden, then shown, then hidden, whatever's last would then override
yeah, whatever's
it.
last.
Okay.
Man, we're just buzzing through this session and displaying data. Any ideas on choosing the proper visualization? Fred gave us these links in a chat window to me. I'm going to go ahead and share this out and add this as a record. And our final one. Our tree options are similar, available in Kinetic UI for adding information to the tree. Without customizing it, Hannah, I don't think there is tree personalization in Epicor.
It's not pretty. So there is something you can do with the tree, and it calls a REST object to pull back JSON to build said tree, and I have intercepted that and modified it, but it's disgusting, and I don't recommend anybody do it. So I would say no.
There we go, Mike. There's your answer.
From Zane, we have had an issue with Kinetic dashboards not being compatible with nested queries. Does anybody know if that's been fixed in 24.2?
Not yet.
Hasn't been fixed?
It has not.
Well, there's a major disappointment. Come on, you got to make these fun. Come on.
I was going to give you sound effects.
From Zane, I think this goes back to the cloud discussion. He said they've had MRP fail a few times, and Epicor has blamed it on failover. I think with the failover, if there's any process running, that process may not carry over during the failover. It's just kind of the way that failover works. In Job Tracker module, Assembly's operations landing page, there is a field scrap quantity that does not look like it's linked to labor scrap. Is this a bug that can be fixed in Kinetic?
What
This
screen
is
was that?
from Job
Is-
Tracker Assembly's operations landing page. I'm going to see if Theodore's still around. Well, it helps if you spell his name right. Theodore, you should be able to unmute yourself now if you want to pipe in.
Yes, it did. It didn't seem like that field, like you can draw that field into the landing page, but it doesn't look like it's linked to the labor scrap. And we would like to be able to see, you know, for that operation line, we'd like to be able to see, how many pieces were produced so far on that line, and then how many pieces were scrapped so far on that line. And so far, we haven't been able to do that. There's two fields in there that are scrap quantity, but neither of them relate to the labor scrap that we're entering against that line.
So this column here of actual scrap quantity isn't working?
That would be correct. I don't know what it's pointed to, but it doesn't look like it's pointed to labor scrap. It'd be really nice if it was.
It's job ops or actual scrap quantity is what they have here. This should be the job operations total actual scrap. Now, if you had like 10 labor transactions, it should be the sum across all of them for that operation.
That doesn't seem like it's working.
Can you do a quick scrap transaction, Calvin? Actual quantity scrap, 0.
You're right.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. It would be nice to be able to see that scrap. So in the event that we had some large quantity of scrap, that we could go back and make a production adjustment for that.
If you write up a BAQ for that job, do you see that job hopper actual scrap quantity populated?
Yeah, we've made BAQs for scrap, and it's in there. It's just it doesn't look like the job tracker in that area is pointed to the right, quantity thing.
Man,
this
that's
is
now 2 job tracker bugs this week. This is not fair.
this is ringing a weird bell from like Vantage 8 days. I feel like that's a thing where the labor scrap quantity doesn't update the job operation one. I feel like this has been around for a while.
Yeah, we've also seen here, where's the burden cost? The burden cost is not always actual. Is not always correct with what's on the job when you run the production detail report. What's on the screen doesn't match what's on the report. That's why I said there have been 2 bugs now with this. We reported the other one earlier this week.
I would probably just write a BPM when you submit your labor that just totals up all of the scrap quantity from the labor tables and puts it in the job operation.
I would say it's there. I'm going to say Epicor is not displaying the data.
I'm going into the database right now to see if I can find it.
That's why I was curious, Calvin, if you open up a BAQ and pull up that field that's supposed to be bound to that column, like what's it showing? Because that was job opper actual scrap quantity. Yours was labor detail scrap quantity. It
What's
almost
your
feels like Epicor's not rolling the
Updating
labor
it.
detail up to the job opper.
So is that something that would have to be a whole new revision of Epicor, like a 24.3 or 25.1 before they would fix that, or would they fix that sooner?
Getting one-offs is very difficult. I would almost say if you truly need it there, you could add a customization that when you click on a job operation row, it displays the total scrap across all the labor entries related to that opper.
So that's something that we could add into that job tracker or make a custom job tracker.
Correct.
on job opper? You've got estimated scrap
Yeah, and the estimated scrap is kind of like on the job, what you're estimating.
in the engineering. Yeah.
It's
But I
not
don't
real
see
world.
a actual scrap on the job offer.
Or it's a calculated field for that dashboard and it's not calculating
Yeah.
right.
I think that's the deal, is it's not calculating correctly because there's no field for it on job offer table. So they must not be pulling in the labor or doing the labor sum to get it.
Or they're calculating it every time they pull up the tracker. It's not coming from the table. They're adding up the stuff that, or they should be adding up all the
They
labor
should be, but
records
they're
to
not.
display it.
That's what I was saying, is they're not adding it. So I think you found a bug.
Now, wait a minute. This is going to get even better, Theodore. When you report this bug and it moves up to a problem because you complained a lot, they're going to give you an ideas number. What do we do with that?
And you send it out to everybody so they can like it or whatever.
Exactly. You got it. Get everybody on this bandwagon to get it fixed. The more people that jump onto your ideas moves it up the ladder quicker.
Well, everybody remember that if you'd like to see that in your Vantage or your Epicor.
Or Theodore, I would say if you create a problem, report this to Epicor as a bug. You can verify it with them on screen. They can do the test to verify it. Once this goes up to get an ideas number, send that back to Fred and we can throw that in the minutes out to everybody as well.
Okay.
So not an official stump, but you came close.
You found a twig, okay?
I mean,
From
there are
Kevin.
workarounds.
Yeah.
You could like tap into the job offer event and on the get list and then populate it yourself with a BPM or a function.
That's what I'm saying. It would be more of a customization into it.
Call it a
I would,
modification.
okay, modification, but I would definitely push Epicor to fix this. We had to fight a whole lot to get them to fix the estimated burden cost.
I would say yes, but like if it's important to you now, I would modify it because Epicor takes their sweet time. And you will have to patch up to whatever release or patch level they're going to fix it in, which may be a deal breaker for some.
Okay. From Kevin. Has anyone used the Convert SQL to BAQ in the Cloud Pilot 2024 too?
Yes.
Yes.
What else you got?
You don't sound like you loved it.
It's gimmicky. It's not very robust. It doesn't like views. So like the DBO, if you got UD fields, you have to manually join your ERP part to ERP part UD. You have to write that yourself, which is annoying, versus like a DBO view that already includes all of the fields. There's a bug around it. If you're in one and then click the crumb bar to go back, it blows up your Epicor, so that's fun. My impression of it wasn't great. It wasn't robust. Like you can't do a lot of the things you can do in SQL, like with joins and stuff. You may as well just build it out with the GUI like we do today.
So it may be there in the future, but it's their first swipe at it.
Allison's question is for the Stump the Chump with 24.1. Do we know of any issues caused by closing jobs through the DMT? Was told by a classic user that it doesn't fire all the required methods for closing the job. When you run the job closing DMT, there are little checkboxes where you have to set the values to 1 or 0. Am I going to print the detail? Am I going to move the labor? Am I going to clear WIP? There were additional settings. It wasn't just feed it in a job number and say close equals true, complete equals true.
We've run it on a DMT before and haven't seen any issues. Don't do it very often, but it has been done.
I mean, when we're working with clients and have to do mass piles of job cleanup because they never closed them since day one, I haven't run across anything, but I don't know as if we did that in the DMT, not necessarily kinetic.
Yeah, but
Ours
he's
would have been a
closing jobs through
DMT.
you. Yeah.
Okay.
From Austin, does anyone else use Material Queue through MES and Kinetic? We've had an issue since May that Epicor themselves have been unable to fix, in which you click Process, a handheld WIP PCID box pops up, and you're unable to move forward with anything.
That WIP PCID box would pop up only if you have a PCID set up for that. If you didn't set one up for it, it shouldn't pop up.
You should be able to unmute yourself now, Austin.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
What?
All right.
Oh man,
Yeah.
you should have said
No.
no.
Hey, Calvin. Yeah. So it's strange because we use no handheld features here, and yeah, it just kind of started coming up out of nowhere back in May, and we don't. We put in a ticket. They finally actually started trying to figure it out, and then most recently they thought it was something that like with their licensing and where like a carryover we moved from Vantage 6 to Kinetic in October 2023, and they thought there was some carryover where some things on the menu got all screwed up. But yeah, it's our shipping people use it the most, and it's been stuck. And so I just wasn't sure if anybody else used the queue at all, and if they ran into any issues, I guess, if they were on Kinetic now.
So you're using the kinetic material request queue? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yep, yep.
We just used that during our testing. We're still staying classic, but I don't recall we seeing that issue.
Okay.
I can look.
Yeah, it's kind of a strange one, and it would take way too long for me to pull up some of the stuff. But yeah, just was curious. In my prior life, we were on Epicor 10, didn't use material queue, so that alone was a new thing to me. But
They're not using the handheld material queue, are they?
no,
They
it
are
literally,
using the regular one.
yeah, using the regular one, but for some reason, one, they went to go through the regular transactions, and you basically click process like they usually would, and then all of a sudden you get the WIP PCID receipt box pops up, and it kind of stops the transaction in its tracks since we don't use any of the handheld functions at all. And so I'm trying to see if I could pull up anything that would give you a glimpse of it, but it's been very strange. And by the way, I work with Theodore/Ted, and I was glad he got his question in.
From Eric, I'm using Microsoft Edge, and when I use the reopen tabs from previous session, it does not load the apps I was in. They're just blank gray background. I have to close and reopen them. I've not tried using the open tab group, so that may solve my issue, but wanted to at least post this for possible discussion in case it was an issue for anyone else and they had a solution. And I'm sorry, Eric, I don't use Edge that often. I prefer Chrome. So I've not run into that myself either.
I use Edge almost daily, and I've never seen that. I'd maybe try like repairing your install or reinstalling it.
And from Tanner,
Does Edge, hold on one second, does Edge offer a profile transfer or a profile service? Like Chrome, you can have a profile that replicates somewhere. Does Edge
It
do
does.
that as well? And that may also be something then you want to take a look at. We've done that where we've had to go into the Chrome settings and reset the settings back down to base because it was monkeyed with a little too much into an unusable state.
okay, from Tanner, do layers need, and this would be kinetic customizations, do layers need to be named alphabetically to coincide with order sequence?
Nope. You can set them in any order with any name. It's all done through menu maintenance.
Also from Tanner, if I save a tab group, it appears that layers are referenced. So, sorry, let me try and reread this. If I save a tab group, it appears that layers are referenced. Does that mean we need to create a new layer and tie it to the new menu item that a user will not receive the new layer in their existing tab group? So since the tab groups open up to specific menus, if you update the menu for the tab, or for that, if you update the menu with your new layer, you should get the new layers, correct?
Unless they're embedding the layer in that GUID that's part of the control that makes the tab group. Like when you go to log into Epicor, it's just login question mark and it's blank. It's kind of, that's the end. But when you open a document or an item with a record, there's an entire slew of characters that go on in that URL.
There is a GUID in there for channel ID.
You know, like I'm not sure. I'm like, when I hit forward record, this is what I get.
And it has layer
Company.
version in there as well.
There you go. It's probably storing that layer version. So what they put in there is what they're getting for their save favorite or
So
their favorite tab.
So Tanner, you may have to, when you publish a new layer, have those people go back into the menu so that they get the updated menu and then save
And
that
then
tab group.
to the tab group.
From Austin again, when you click Assemblies Operations and see the summary of operations, the scrap quantity you see in that view does not seem to be summing up what you see when you drill down in the operate. I think that's the same thing we just saw from somebody else.
Yep, Epicor is not rolling up and putting the scrap quantities correctly in the job tracker.
And since that's from Theodore at your same company, Austin, haha, no wonder. It took me a minute to put it together. From Adam, any idea why I keep getting scheduled task agent jobs with a status of pending? An Epicor problem suggested removing the app server URL from the system agent, but we don't have anything in that field. I also don't see these in the sys task table.
How are you getting a status of pending if it's not even in the sys task table?
And Adam, I'm trying to, now you should be able to unmute yourself, Adam. He says he sees them in System Monitor and Epicor, but nothing in SQL on the table.
Is this a report or a system task?
It's when he goes into system, okay, I keep getting scheduled task agent jobs with a status of pending. So that would be down in the System Monitor is where he's monitoring those, I think.
Are you getting? Did he say he gets scheduled tasks was pending?
Yes.
Means if that means that the task agent isn't running. Is there a task agent on that app server?
He says
Or
nightly
can you
tasks
restart
are
the
scheduled.
task?
You can go restart the task agent if you go into your admin console.
Have you tried that, Adam? Restarting the agent or agents? If you're in production, you might have 3 of them. Restart doesn't go run them, it just clears them out.
And then they come back.
They come back the next night,
Well, that means
probably.
it's a recurring task that's set that could be set in his system or system agent,
Could it be that the task is misconfigured now?
possibly. Then I would check your system agent in Kinetic to see what you have set for reoccurring processes.
Maybe even
Or
delete the. Go
delete the
ahead, Ken.
task and re-add it to the schedule.
That's what
Yeah.
I was going to say too. Would that work for you, Adam? At least as something to try.
You didn't change your system agent name or system monitor recently, have you? Or I could see the old task maybe had the wrong one configured with it.
I've deleted and re-added. Yes, they come back. He says, "I wish I could talk to you." So do we, Adam. It's a little rough here.
I would say check your system agent then
And
and your schedule setup.
you're down at Chromalloy, Adam. Also double check. This happened to another customer that the items were going to the system agent. They had 2 databases pointed to the same system agent. So pilot and prod were going to the same system agent. They modified the system agent setup, and both prod and pilot were sending tasks to the same one. But when the system would go to run, it couldn't find it in the database, so it would get hung up.
Yeah, I do remember.
Make sure that when your make sure that when your database was copied, someone updated the system agent record before restarting the schedules. The other thing, I'm going to say normally a best practice when you copy prod to pilot or another instance, disable your agents. Otherwise, you could accidentally be sending out invoices and other automated communications because you didn't disable them. Do you have any recommendation, Hannah or Christine, for how to make sure that automations, I mean, yes, you could say, is prod as your first step in your BPM before it fires or before code goes.
Yeah, the
I
biggest
actually do
thing is
that.
to ensure your AS schedules are off. That's
Otherwise,
what we
yeah, you
do.
could be having multiple databases all running MRP at the same time also. That's going to be a load on your server. I don't remember Joe's last name, but
Adam
Joe
says
was
he'll
the
check.
customer.
He'll check on that. We copy the environment every night for training. All of the tasks seem to run fine, just the scheduled process set. But he'll check into it. He appreciates it. If that doesn't get you going, Adam, let us know. Maybe we can find some other stuff for you. From Christopher, can you run sales order acknowledgement without show any prices?
If you modify a report.
That's what I
Yeah,
was thinking.
just modify your report to remove the prices off.
And Adam said from the REST API limit, it sounds like it could be a change in the web config. So that could be, they may have that set on the cloud where they can only limit to so many rows. I'll take a look at that. Thank you. From Shahan, I was curious, can a regular manufacturing job be dependent on a project job? If changes are made to the project job, can it trigger the rescheduling of the manufacturing job?
I would think only if the manufacturing job was made from the project job. If you just created the job like to stock or even make to order wouldn't work, but if you were just making the production job for the component to stock, that's not linking the project to the inventory job. I think you would have to do it from the project module to create the job for the item so that the two are linked. I think though, if you firm the job, from that point forward, you're telling the system you're going to manage it. So if either of them change and they're both a firm job, you would have to turn around and manage those manually. MRP is only going to fix it if it's still in an unfirm state.
Shahan, you should be able to unmute yourself if you want to chime in.
Okay, now I'm just curious because we never use project jobs, but just a question that if it is possible, we will try that. So I cannot say anything else yet, but because I didn't try it yet before. So you're saying you have to create a job from is a make to job for the
Yeah, I
project?
would think it's still a make to job. It's just going to have the project job number in it.
Yeah, we can try that.
All right. From Eric, are there any guides on what options need configured to process closing jobs in DMT to make sure those processes fire? I think this goes back to the previous question on closing jobs via DMT.
That's not the guide he wants. Okay.
So I would think as long as you've got the right checkboxes, are there any specific ones that he should be looking at?
Christine, do you have your file that you guys run for job closing where you could share the template file?
I do not. I don't think no, I can't show it right now.
A kingdom for a text file or a CSV.
It has been a couple years since, well, it's been a while since we have done ours in DMT. We try to force our users to do it, so.
Well, that's not that bad. That's from January 24. Eric, I'll go ahead and attach this or email it over to you. I have a job closing DMT template file with the columns that we had in the order that we had them in.
I think probably the biggest one is whether you want backflush to run or not.
And it also, I think, makes a difference on the order that you provide it, like company, site, job number, then checkbox for complete, then checkbox for closing, because when the action occurs on the screen, it's actually doing the completing and updating the completion date before you can even get to hit the close. Then it updates the close date. Jobs to close.csv. Company, job number, job complete, job closed, quantity, continued, job completion date, and then close date was the order of fields that we had. Copy.
Did you not have the backflush in there?
No, we didn't have that in there.
Well, depending whether or not you have backflush operations, you may have to have that checked or not.
That works. But Eric, I went ahead and sent you the template, the CSV template in the chat.
And Theodore and Austin, Hannah was able to find a posting that the actual scrap quantity has been an issue since version 8.
And Hannah, you taking the fun out of it. We could have let them bang their head on the wall for a couple more hours.
From Dawn, how do we get MRP to stop creating multiple jobs scheduled on the same day when we're behind schedule? We want one job quantity, not 3 because of the logic it uses.
Your days of supply is probably set to 0. If the days of supply is set to 0, you're going to get a job suggestion for every demand requirement. If you turn around and set your days of supply to 3, any demand requirement within those 3 days comes on one job suggestion with multiple links to it.
So it took me a while to figure out what was going on. It looks at the past due sales orders and the past due forecast. It says you need to make this quantity today. And then it looks at that quantity plus how far below your safety stock you are and says now you need to make this much today. And then it looks at the next forecast, like in the next couple days, and it says then you need to make that plus your days of supply. So it's like 3 jobs all in one day. Instead of just you're this far behind and you need this many days of supply, one job, one quantity would be great. So I was able to figure it out, but it just seems like it's doing way more work than it needs to do.
I think you can also try look at your delta ins and out. We've been playing a little bit about it too. We struggled with the same issue. The things that we were looking at, or our production planner is looking at is the time the time phase, or sorry, the time fence, the days of supply, and then the delta in and delta out on the part.
So we were looking at that. We have the only time this is an issue is when our machine goes down and then we're behind schedule. We don't have any firm jobs, so it's just strictly MRP creating jobs. And we don't want to have a planning time fence in because that's not always the case. You know what I mean? Our reschedule out is set at 28 days and our rescheduling is set at 7 days. But yeah, it's strictly like no jobs are firmed. It's just we're behind schedule because the machine went down. You know, I don't know. I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me why they would schedule 3 different jobs on the same day.
Do you have lot sizing
No,
Or
or multiples?
it's a multiple of like 3, but that's, you know, I'm not worried about the multiple. It literally, it looks at sales orders and forecasts that are past due, and it creates a job for that quantity. Then if there is other job demand for that part, because we use that in another assembly or something, it'll take that demand plus the job you created plus the on hand and figure out if you're still below safety stock. And it will say, okay, you need to make this much more again today. And then it looks for the days of supply and makes a third job.
did I hear you right? The forecast date has passed?
Yeah, so when we put in our forecast, it's usually, I think they put it in for Monday for that whole week. So if the machine breaks down on Thursday and we haven't consumed our forecast yet for that week, it will be in the past.
So your forecast window is more than your week then?
I think, I want to say it's at 5 and 5, but I don't know for sure.
Okay.
They change it depending on the item, so.
Well, there's also a forecast
Before and after days.
before and after. That's a site setting.
Which says if the order date is 2 days after this job that's running, if my days window is 4 days, it should merge them together into one also.
Mm-hmm.
Can you check the site configuration setting?
No, I can't right now, unfortunately. I will do that on Monday though. It does it though, even if there's not past due forecast. That's the thing. If there's past due job demand and past due sales orders, it will create 2 jobs that way as well. It's only when we get behind schedule, like dates in the past. I know Epicor doesn't like it, but
Do you allow scheduling in the past?
yes. You know, at one level it says, you know, it's due today, but it starts in the past. I guess basically I just wanted to treat all demand the same and say, you wanted to be at this safety stock, you have this much demand, your days of supply is this, and look at all of it and give me one job. I'm even okay if it says it's due today. That's fine. I can deal with that. But one quantity would be great.
So here under your company configuration, there would be a forecast window days before and days after. Sorry, we thought that was in the site. It's on the company. The forecast window is here. How many days? So if I have a forecast date on the 15th and I have the days after as 15, anything that's ordered between the 15th and the 30th would get lumped into one suggestion.
So, but my problem is that it's doing that. I think I want to say that the days before and the days after is like 5 and 5. And that's fine because the past due sales order and the forecast that is still not consumed were within a couple days of each other. So it is doing that, but it's creating a job for that and not also adding the job demand that's at the same time. It's
Have
not
you looked at
lumping
the
all
MRP?
together, you know what I mean?
Have you looked at the MRP log? Do a full log in an MRP and see what it
Yeah,
tries to
and it tells me the required quantity, but it doesn't give me like the steps, you know. I don't know what to look for, what would be causing it. Like I don't know what makes it say we have to do different jobs for these types of demands at this time.
Yeah, I would have to see the settings to maybe point something out.
Also, under your company configuration here, you can turn on and enable the scheduling debug log. And then once this is turned on, you can turn on the include extra details. the system is supposed to dump more information into the log as to why it's doing what it's doing. That may be
Okay.
something also to try, is turn on the verbose logging and see if it shows up there.
Appreciate any help.
Okay. Not to worry, I think you stumped the chumps.
All right. I'm not seeing any more
So good.
questions. So everybody have a good weekend, and thanks again for attending a user group meeting.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.